So, on my little break today, I thought I'll have a quick review of the Reid that I purchased in, I think, June of last year. Primarily used to sort of commute to work and to and from, and then found out that it was not so easy to ride to work in the morning, up hills. Downhills was fine, as they always are. But yeah, it's a little bit mucky at the moment, but it'll probably stay like that for a little bit. But yeah, onto the Reid itself. So I bought the Reid for £499. I don't know if it was because of the lack of bikes available, because everybody was buying bikes at the time, or whether that's the price, because I've checked today and the price is still around about £489, so it's only dropped a tenner really, which isn't a lot to drop. So we'll show you the bike in its muddy form. One of the attractions to the bike was the colour, to be fair. I quite like the blue and I quite like the green. So here we go. Right, there we go. I have to play with the camera a little bit there. So the Reid itself, I don't know if it's modern geometry or not. It comes with a 3x8, which the rear end has been replaced at the moment. Overall, it's not a great bike. It's not horrible. It's comfortable. The front shocks are Zoom shocks, which are 100mm travel, and they're pretty pap really. They don't work overly great. Sometimes they get stuck down as well, so when you get off they pop back up again. Downside to cheap forks, and for the £500 that we spent, I would have expected a little bit better. They do have lock off, so you can lock them out, and they do have the pre-tension system on them, which is God knows what that does. The mud guards were purchased from Amazon for about £8, I think, if I remember rightly. They work, they keep most of the mud off you, but not all of it, as I'm standing now covered in mud. The saddle is pretty uncomfortable. Also, the first time we went out on it at the bike park, we bent the saddle and bent the bars, which was always good. So this bike here has had the conversion done to it. So we have an electric motor at the front, electric battery in the middle, and the controller in the little bag inside. The bag is a waterproof bag, so it doesn't really make any odds to the controller. But the controller itself is actually semi-waterproof, so as long as you don't get it in the actual wires internally, it should be fine. As you can see, it's completely lagged in mud from today's ride. But yeah, the derailleur set with it is not the one that was supposed to be on there. It was labelled to be a Shimano. It's actually a Sun, I think, or what is it? An M50 something. Which Sun M50 or something daft like that. So it's not the best in the world. It has gone out of whack a few times. What else we've had to do? We have come off it the first day we got it, so we did I think bent the rear derailleur hanger. And trying to get a rear derailleur hanger for one of these is an absolute nightmare. You can't find them anywhere, and they're not even part of Reid's hangers. I had to speak to somebody and then speak to somebody else, go to a website to not find it, then actually address Reid directly, who then sent me a link for the correct part. So yeah, that was fun. But currently I know there's far too many better bikes on the market for the same sort of money. You've got the Trek Marlins. Again, they start at around about sort of £479, but they come with better sort of running gear, better wheels. These wheels are not air ready, or tubeless ready, shall we say. The brakes that were on it were Tecna, I think they were, something along those lines. They were sort of mechanical brakes, and they were not very good. We found once we converted it to an electric, they didn't like slowing down from around about 25 miles an hour. on the commute we were hitting about 31, slightly down a hill towards the roundabout, and they just wouldn't stop. So I have upgraded those, so I'll get a look on those a second. So I went with blue ones. These are a Zoom hydraulic brakes. So they're cable actuated, but they actually have hydraulic fluid inside them, so you give a bit more power. Just meant I didn't have to replace the wiring and everything else and try and run hydraulics all the way through the bike. The discs are actually the original discs. They seem to work okay. They're a bit lagged at the moment. There's not a lot of clearance on that rear hub to the brakes, but it fits in, it works. They are a hell of a lot better than the old mechanical ones, and they're just like night and day. I can actually lock the back wheel up, I can lock the front wheel up, going at certain speeds, and before I wasn't able to do any of that. So yeah, overall that's not too bad. Onto the actual conversion itself. It's the little old screens here telling you your battery, your speed, your assist level, also how many miles you've done since you installed it, and how many miles you got your trip for the miles, and then your voltage on the battery, and then your current that's used, also the time. So there's plenty of information through that. I think if I remember rightly, the kit was around about £501. That came with everything: the controller, the PAS system, the battery itself, and the motor as well. You do have to restrict them a little bit, because they are, when they're in their sort of open mode, they're a little bit too fast for the UK. But you can restrict it, and it will then only do sort of UK limits, which is useful. You can restrict like the ampage it uses, you can restrict the speed it goes. So there's lots of sort of playing around in there. If you were to take it off-road onto private land, you can de-restrict it and go as fast as you'd like. I think these are capable of, when they're set up fully and got a big enough battery, capable of some decent speeds. But to be fair, with cycling, it was really just for an assist, not for top end, which is why we went for it. Also the fact that we were massively unfit, and we didn't realise that until we actually got the bike. But yeah, well, that's the Reid. My advice, that it's the Reid MTB Pro Disc is the actual official name. My advice is probably to go for either a Specialised. They do them for around about 550 quid. You've got the Trek Marlin range starting at around about 480 or 479 that I've seen. And having a play with those, they do feel a lot better than what the Reid does. They also look a little bit more the part as well. I think their geometry is more squat at the rear, so they tend to be more for sort of trails and stuff like that. Although this is supposed to be a trail bike, I wouldn't call it that. It's more of a commute bike, really. It's okay, it does what it's asked of. Upgrades are coming up in the future, I suppose. We'll look at the shock absorbers, the front forks, and replacing those. We'll see what we can find. Maybe go with something like a Fox, or even one of the other cheaper air suspensions if we can find a decent price for one. Handlebars have been upgraded on this one because we bent them. They were just a cheap set from Amazon. I think they were like 15 quid or something daft like that, made by Wake, I believe it is. But again, it was the blue. I quite like the colour blue, so that's one of the reasons for that purchase. But yeah, well, that's as I say, that's my overlook or sort of semi-review on the MTB Pro Disc from Reid, and just my opinion. There may be others out there. I didn't see a lot of videos on this bike when I first purchased it, so hopefully it helps someone make an informed decision a little bit. But yeah, if it wasn't for the Zoom forks, which are really pants, then it probably wouldn't be as bad. But yeah, anyway, we'll let you go. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day.